Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing another Redline. Don't go away. Hey friends, today we're going to do a Redline. And what's going to be so interesting about this is going to be the Redline that is literally going to break my back. This thing has been a bear. I tell you what, man, I can't tell you how many times I thought I needed to just throw in the towel. So let's get right to it and let me show you this real pill of a car. It was always something with this car. This was the original car I had, and I had taken it apart and stripped it, but when I did that, the post blew out. So the body wasn't any good, and I went ahead and just shelved this thing for a couple years before I got a new car and decided that I wanted to try and do it. So the problems have been going on for quite some time. This car has just been a real pain in my backside. So I ended up having this car here, and this is just a plastic-based Porsche 917, but for the most part, most of the pieces are virtually identical. The body is identical. Even the base is identical, except one is made out of plastic and one is made out of Zamac. But other than that, the car is really, really identical. And so I thought to myself, maybe that's an indicator that this is the time to go ahead and do this project. So I took the new car and decided to go ahead and take it apart using my Vix Bit method. As I used the Vix Bits, the car came apart beautifully. I didn't have any trouble there. But that was like the only moment in this entire restoration where I didn't really have any trouble. And it's not the last issue I'm going to have with these posts. So we'll revisit that here later on when it bites me again. All right, I get a small tool and I'll just put it in here and go ahead and pop the base off of the body of the car. But as you can see, even that didn't go so well, and I needed to get a little bit bigger of a tool to do this with. And again, so I went ahead to both sides and popped the base off the bottom. Okay, so with the car apart, I can go ahead and take a look at everything. The wheels aren't terrible, but they're not great, so I do want to replace them with brand new ones. They're the straight axle kind, and they should be easy enough to change out. The interior and the glass, all of the front part of the glass, the headlights and the cockpit are all molded into one piece. And then you have a separate piece of glass that goes over the engine, and I'll have to take that out. But as you can see, I've got the car apart pretty much. As most of the pieces are identical, I thought, well, okay, why not put the metal base on this body? So I'm checking it for fit, and sure enough, it does fit and it will work. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do here at this point. Of course, that's not going to work out. On this particular car, the wheels are held in kind of a suspension board. They're kind of molded into it, and it has already broken. So I'm not so sure how this is all going to work out. I had to drill it to get the suspension board off, but now I'm left with a real mess here. Undaunted, I decided to go ahead and forge ahead and I'm going to strip the paint off the new body. So I'm going to break out my gel paint stripper and a brush, and I'm going to start stripping the paint off. This was actually the only part of the restoration that went really the way I intended it to. The paint came off pretty easily with the stripper, and after I get it all loose and off, I'll take it over to the sink, run it under some clean water to get rid of the stripper, take a brush to it, and remove any of the residual paint. Okay, so with most of the paint off and the car washed off, I'll bring it back and I'll go ahead and I'll hit it with the wire bristle brush to remove any residual and to kind of even out the surface. Well, the body on this Porsche wasn't so bad, but I've kind of taken up the policy that I'm going to go ahead and put a fresh layer of zinc on just about every car I restore. So I took the car down to my setup and I went ahead and threw just about a 20-minute single bath of zinc onto the car, just to kind of homogenize the surface. And here we have the car with a nice fresh layer of zinc, and I'll just shine it up using a little steel wool. Okay, so with the body shined up and washed and degreased, it's time to go ahead and throw some paint on it. I'm going to be using this hot pink from the Redline shops, and so I'm just going to mix it up with some of their hardener, and we'll go ahead and start laying the paint down. All right, so after I add the hardener and thoroughly mix the paint up, I'll go ahead and dump it into my airbrush. I'll start putting the paint down. I love to go ahead and mist down my spray booth with a bottle of water, and just to help keep dust down and woolly boogers off the paint job. Once I start painting, I'll do my normal thing. I'll lay down a very light tack coat, then a medium coat, then 2 to 3 wet coats as is needed to get the color that I'm looking for. So there's really nothing wrong with this paint whatsoever, other than the fact that it ended up not really being the color I wanted. I think I wanted more of like a creamy pink than this. And so next problem up, line them up, is that I really wasn't thrilled with the color. I went ahead and put an extra couple of coats on it to kind of deepen the color. Um, but, what are you going to do? Now, certainly the color issue is all just because of that's what I had in my mind and not necessarily a real legitimate issue. But, it's just showing you that sometimes these projects just refuse to go the way you want them to. Well, it certainly is a beautiful and glossy finish, but it's just not quite what I really wanted. But let's forge ahead anyhow. Okay, so here we are over to open up the glass. The old glass is probably fine, but I had this in the kit, and as badly as this car has treated me, I doubt I'll ever want to touch another one. So I'm going to go ahead and use up the brand new stuff so I don't have to polish it first. So I go ahead and get out of the packaging and break out my trusty old gauzy. And when you see me doing this, I'm actually kind of mixing the gauzy around. I just don't want to shake it and induce a bunch of bubbles into it. So I just kind of roll it around. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick up the glass, get it onto my tweezers, find a good place where I can hold it, and into the pool it will go. So after it's dunk in the gauzy, I'll wick a bunch of the extra off on a paper towel, set it down on a paper plate, and cover it up so no woolly burgers will land on it, and then I'll do the back piece. Okay, with the gauzy done, I can now turn to how am I going to deal with the base. And with the broken suspension board, I didn't really want to glue the axles in. I just decided I would go ahead and use the plastic base. Again, it's not really what I had in mind, but I was running out of ideas here. So these straight axles actually are just kind of held in with a clip, so it's not too hard to get them off. And I had a brand new set ready to go. And I'll save these because they're certainly not bad. Okay, so here is my new wheels and axles, and I'll take those out and I'll go ahead and pop them into the base. And this is going to be another issue in that there's an awful lot of play between the base and the wheels, so the wheels really kind of are sloppy and move around a lot. I probably would have been better off going back and putting the old ones back on, but at this point, I was really frustrated and just wanted to see the project through. So I stuck them on, found the problem, and just decided I was going to live with it. Other than the slop between the wheel and the axle and the body, you can see they look great and they roll fine. But again, it's just everything is fighting me. I don't suppose you can hear that in my voice, the frustration I've had with this car, can you? But it does roll good. So here was another problem. I had forgotten to drill the posts out before I painted. And because I didn't want to screw up the paint, I was being extra ginger with the thing. And I ended up actually, I was so frustrated. I used the wrong drill bit and made the hole too big. And so I just really had a mess going. And at this point, there was no option left for me except to go ahead and epoxy the car back together. Fortunately, from the Redline shops, I do have some of their blind rivets, which give a rivet look, and it looks like you've got a rivet in there, even though it's just glued in and there for appearances. So I've mixed up some 3-minute epoxy, and I'm going to put a little on the bottom of the interior and some around both of the posts. And then I'll go ahead and set the body in, and then I'll drop these rivets into the holes, make sure they're nice and flush, and then let it all dry. Oh, and of course, the front rivet wouldn't go in and sit flush. I had to take it and cut it short so it would fit. Like I said, this thing was going to fight me to the very end. Okay, so we're almost done. It doesn't look terrible, and I'm really glad to be almost done with this sucker. All I really have to do is put this little back glass in over the window. Of course, that wasn't going to be an easy task. It was going to fight me. It was really, really difficult to put it back in, especially you're trying not to gouge up the window or hurt the paint. But I finally got it in, and at that point, we can just about call this car done. All right, I'm just going to clean the car off a little bit, and then we can take a look and see what we have here. And there you have it, the Porsche 917 in all its glory. This car made me want to literally take a blowtorch to my own face. I was just done like dinner with this thing. Um, I think it probably came out pretty good, but I can't see it because all I see when I look at it is all of the frustration this car gave me. Okay, so there it is, the bane of my existence. I think it came out pretty damn good considering all of the hurdles I had to go through to get here. Um, I wish it had not been as difficult as it was. I wish I had done things a lot differently, but you can't argue with the final result. And I think that's really the point of this video here. You can't get so hung up on being, this is how I'm going to go. Okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to run into problems, and you had better be ready to take the long way around, or you might as well just not even be doing this, because these things will frustrate you. The simplest car is going to prove to be your biggest challenge. But in the end, I think it was worth it, and it came out really awesome. I'm very happy with it. I just wish it had not been such a real ball buster, because it really was. This thing was a total challenge. Okay, if you like this video, go ahead and click like, subscribe to my channel, click the little bell to be notified anytime I release a new video. Ask any questions and make any comments you want. I'd love to talk to you. Until next time, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions, wishing you the most amazing, centabulous, awesome, fantastic day. Be good.